Well, we got ourselves a little bit of a news story here, fellas. I said in the comments or in the caption, this is an emergency podcast. And if there ever was one, I'm not playing it up this time. So the USAPL has been suspended by the IPF.
Yeah.
Kind of seen the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
We knew that they were openly on a campaign on social media saying, A, we're not WADA compliant. B, we think WADA's dumb. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And C, we're never going to be WADA compliant. So that's straight up. You know, that they made no bones about it. Fair enough. They don't believe in that. So when this went to the anti-doping panel, is that I'm sure it might have a different official title. But
doping hearing panel.
Thank you. And you straight up were saying that, like, this isn't a case where some nations will plead their case and try to negotiate. Like, you know, this was a straight up, yeah, we were non-compliant. We will remain non-compliant and we will never be compliant. It is going to be an open and shut case when that happens. The hope was that this thing drags out, as sometimes proceedings do, and maybe we get on the other side of the IPF World Championships and we're good to go. The USAPL did not want to risk that. Pushed for this thing to happen sooner rather than later, and they got what they wanted in terms of a verdict. And the verdict, we all agreed, was probably going to be, you know, they gave absolutely no room for any other verdict. It was going to be bad. So it is what it is. Here we are, right? We were hoping for it to be delayed. It was not delayed. They got what they wanted. It came early. So the USAPL has been suspended. Let's maybe read their release. We have heard nothing from the IPF in terms of this, in terms of the suspensions, fines, or what this is going to look like. Just came out of the blue from the USAPL on a social media post and I believe a letter. You want to read a couple segments from that for us there, Arian?
Yeah, so we've been kind of following the steps for a few months now, as far as like, the IPF EC sending letters, then the anti-doping committee, then the doping hearing panel. So if you missed those, you can always just go to usapowerlifting.com and read each of those. There was like a letter from July 30th, a letter from August 15th, and then this latest one with the opening paragraph saying USA Powerlifting received the judgment from the the IPF doping hearing panel, despite our plea to allow nominated athletes to compete, much like the IOC and IPF did for Russia with the ROC, Russian Olympic Committee. The IPF has denied athletes the right to compete. We are essentially being suspended for too much drug testing and not for doping violations. A 12-month suspension for all USA Powerlifting members from IPF competitions is effective immediately. The suspension only affects the IPF events and all positions held in the IPF. It does not impact local, national, or our pro events.
So I want to jump in here and point out a couple of things about this statement so far. Actually, first of all, I want to say that my heart absolutely goes out to everyone who is. Hey, Bill. So first of all, I want to say that obviously my heart goes out to all of the athletes who are affected by this and are just trying to do the right thing. So when I'm talking about,
it's fine. They'll be okay.
When I'm talking about the USAPL, I like the hat and the t-shirt there, by the way, Bill. That's very on brand. When I talk about the USAPL for now, what I'm going to be talking about is mostly like the USAPL leadership as opposed to sort of like individual members of the USAPL. But this says that the IPF has denied athletes the right to compete. Yes, that is probably true, though we haven't seen the actual IPF statement about this. Like I assume that isn't just a blatant fabrication. For doing too much drug testing. Now that is factually inaccurate, right? Like there is nothing about how much drug testing that is happening. The thing that the problem is the standard of the drug testing that is happening. And I want to take a quick divergence, a quick tangent, if you will, to tell a story about MMA. And I promise that this is going to become relevant really soon.
Are you the new Ryan now, by the way?
Doggy. Let the man talk.
I am going to shave my head and start calling myself One Pack.
Let the man speak. Let the man speak. He has our attention when he came in there.
Okay, so up until the 1st of July 2015, The UFC did third-party drug tests. Did in-house drug testing. They didn't do very many tests at that time, though they did do a few. In the year leading up to the 1st of July 2015, so mid-2014 to mid-2015, they had 5 doping suspensions. On the 1st of July 2015, they switched to third-party drug testing. And so for one thing, the number of tests that they did go up dramatically. And so that is worth accounting for. It did go up by about 4 times in the first year. But the number of failed tests also went up 12 times in the first year. They've had 123 doping failures over the last 2 years based on the number of tests that they've done, which again has gone up dramatically in that time. But even the percentage of failed tests has gone up 300% since they switched from in-house drug testing to third-party drug testing. So what I'm getting to here is that we have seen in other sports, like we have like answers from other sports about how much difference does it make an in-house drug test versus a third-party drug test. And like I can sit here and postulate all I like about the impact of it being tested by Arian instead of by some random wider person, right? But like the numbers speak really well. And the fact is that when you have a person who doesn't understand UFC picking the people who they want to test, doing it at a random time at any time throughout the year, like that is much more effective than Arian showing up at my house, potentially Arian even knowing 2 days in advance in some cases. And so like USAPL is not being suspended for doing too much drug testing. USAPL is being suspended for drug testing practices that provably don't work, regardless, or don't work as well, I think I should say, because obviously some people do still get caught. And that is what is actually happening here. And so if you are going around repeating that the USAPL is being suspended for doing too much drug testing, you are repeating the USAPL's bullshit propaganda, right?
Nobody gets suspended for doing too much drug testing. That's a silly thing to say. It is taken out of context to say it that way. Like I had a conversation with a friend. I've had many conversations with a bunch of USAPL friends. And let me just say straight off the bat, like, honestly, I've talked to a couple of people who are on the U.S. national team, and fucking this is got to be gutting. We've done podcasts with some of these individuals. Rory, you remember when we had Andy Riley on here, and her story literally was fucking a tough one. And to hear, like, it's tough, man. People go into your DMs and you have conversations with some people and you're fucking gutted for these people. Like Jonathan Keiko, I forget who was the co-host for that one. Was that you again, Arian? Arian or Rory, or who was
I was on that one.
Well, you were on that one. It's tough, man. Some of these people have done incredible journeys to get there, and this is not the way it's supposed to go. So that's hard. And I understand to be so close. I'm training for the world championships myself, and this is in the masters division. If I was in the open and I went through what they had to go through to US Raw Nationals, to find the rug pulled out from under me this close would be fucking gutting when you care. And there's nothing funny about caring. Like, it's okay to care, and put yourself all out there. It means a lot. It means a lot to me, man. So I'm gutted for them. Now, in terms of the whole politics of it, it's a lot stickier than some people think. So if we start to unpack this a little bit, yes, there's no such, literally factually, you cannot be suspended for doing too many drug tests. That doesn't make sense. What they're trying to say is essentially they were not WADA compliant. That's why you were going to get suspended. And you were openly saying we're not WADA compliant and openly saying we don't think being WADA compliant is a good idea. And we're just not going to do it. Fine. If you want to do different type of drug testing, you 100% can. You just can't be a part of a global body that is their mandate is to be WADA compliant. So you got to part ways. So this was going to come. Okay, this is going to come. When I was having a conversation with a friend earlier, this individual was saying, but listen, let me tell you how the testing goes. And they were walking me through how they do the testing, and like, cause they were an individual who would be doing testing. No, it's not Arian for anyone listening. And they were saying, it's all very over the board, very whatever. Like there is nothing shady happening. And I told this individual, listen, I 100% guarantee, like, I believe you 100% you would never do something like this. But if I told you Russia did their own testing And they were like, trust me. I tested them myself. We do our own testing. Everything's above board. Everything's good, but we don't want third-party testing getting involved. We want to have complete control over this. Take our word for it. We're good. You would not feel comfortable. Kazakhstan's doing this. Whoever's doing this. If they're like, we want to do our own testing and we want complete control and autonomy over it, and just take our word for it. Everything's good. It wouldn't sit right. You would be like, you wouldn't be like on the surface, you'd be like, no other nation would believe it. So this is where it becomes, other sports have done this, where you give it up to a third party and be like, we have no influence. So when people say it's, where's the transparency? Like some people have said, like WADA has no transparency. They just can't release certain information to the global, like the federation that they're testing. When that federation wants to tell WADA, you should test this guy. Okay, let's say I have 10 tests in my hands and you've now allocated 5 of them for me because you're telling me who you think I should test. Well, is that sound proper to you? If I went into Russia with only 10 tests in hand and Russia tried to point me in the direction of 5 lifters to test, wouldn't the rest of the world be like, hey, bud, maybe don't let them tell you how half of your tests should go out the window and go and stick to what you do best as anti-doping. This is why. And I'm not saying anyone's doing anything in bad faith. I think everyone's operating in good faith. I'm just saying, if you step back and you're not WADA or USAPL and you're just the fucking friendly neighbor Canadian, you'd be like, it makes sense. You aren't allowed to tell them who they should test or offer your input. They'd be like, I'm sorry, you can't. I'm a jury member of this trial. You can't influence me. You're not allowed. I have to have complete separation from you. That's how this is going to work. I'm just explaining this as the reason, the way WADA operates the way they operate. And in terms of in meet, some people have given stories. I remember being at a competition and everyone got pulled off in drug tests. And I don't see people getting tested at in meets anymore. It has been proven in meet testing is not where it's at anymore. You want to catch doping cheats, almost all of them. And Roy, if you did that UFC research, I remember I'm a big UFC guy, MMA guy, and they started doing a vast majority of their dirtied failures because they were doing out of meet. And catching people in meet is very difficult. Catching people out of meet is far easier. So when you have somebody who is not at all involved in your organization, can't give a heads up to anybody, is not associated to anybody. I'm not associated to you and your trainers and your coaches, nor your competitions, trainers and coaches or anything. And I'm coming out of nowhere, out of the blue, and I'm going to jump in here and drug test you out of nowhere. That has proven to be the best time to catch drug cheats, not sitting at the championship when it's on the calendar and you see the dates rolling by and you show up and I just hope to pull you off because you won and test you then. That is proven, we now know, very difficult to catch drug cheats. So the best way to catch people is for somebody to come in completely unassociated. I am not a part of either a friend of you nor an enemy to you or anything to you. I'm not in your community that you can say I'm associated with your coaching service or rival coaching service or anyone's coaching service. I'm coming in at an undisclosed time and I'm going to pull you aside and I'm going to drug test you. That has proven to be the best way to catch cheats. I'm just saying it because this is what the stats are looking like. And
yeah, so for reference, in 2020, I'm going to go back to UFC just because I've got the stats in front of me because I was just looking at them. They did 3,557 tests, of which 390 were in competition and 3,167 were out of competition. So about 90% of their testing is out of competition. And I think one of you guys shared a screenshot before that showed that Conor McGregor has been tested like 11 times already this year. And it's only like August. Dude's been asked to pee in a cup like every 2 weeks for the entire year so far.
You better not catch him on a Sunday morning because I guarantee he's got some narcotics in there.
I went to the USA's website to see what stats are on there. And yeah, there's a database where you can search by sport and by year and put their name in. So yeah, I put in Conor McGregor, 2021, 11 tests. Amanda Nunes, 2021, 8 tests. And I went and looked at the stats for 2019 because I was like, okay, let's go before the pandemic. And actually, mixed martial arts has the most tests done by USADA of all the sports. and you can break it. It's broken down by quarter, in competition and out of competition. And it's around 1,000 tests per quarter, with about 900 being out of competition and 100 being in competition. So they're putting about, 90% of their effort towards out of competition.
And when it comes to, like, people say there's no words of transparency, like there is, some people are also saying there is transparency. If someone pops or anything like this, you're going to find out the amount of tests, et cetera. You're going to find this out. What you're not going to have is control over what they're doing, but that is the point of it. That is the point of drug testing. There's a conflict of interest. And I know in America, like I have faith. Like one of my friends, Arian, was one of these people in this position. I have faith in these people. I'm just saying, if you're from the other side of the world looking in, you'd be like this, or if it was another nation who's like, hey guys, we're going to do our own testing. You wouldn't be okay with that. And if you say, well, allow WADA can come in to test at nationals, that's too late. They got to be in all the time. They got to be in, they have to run their program. It can't just be at specific events. Because again, it's out of meet contests. So it can't be throughout the year we do our thing and then we bring you in for an event, which to my knowledge wasn't that the case.
What's the question again?
Is it like previous?
WADA just came in for nationals, basically.
Yeah. The times that we've used either USADA or the German lab has been for our national or international competitions, like Raw Nationals or the Arnold Sports Festival.
Right. And this is, again, so coming from a nation that's WADA compliant, I have to fill out my whereabouts every single day, all the time. And they could go to my work. They could show up at my gym. They could show up wherever they want and test me. But if you show up at my nationals, it's like the worst time to try to catch somebody. So this is why when they say, well, we're WADA compliance, like you're missing the script here. and the UFC was a great comparison here, Rory, because they look for 90% out of meat, and there's a reason why they trended there. Just want to throw that out.
So USAPL does plenty of out of meat tests. It's just they're not third-party tests. It's
still just Arian showing up at your house.
Yeah,
right?
Arian showing up at work and saying, "Hey, let's go."
Right.
I want to be really clear, because I did sound super negative before. It's not that I don't trust Arian. It's not that I don't trust any specific individual. It's that I don't trust a system that requires us to trust those individuals.
Right.
That's very well said, dude. That is very well said. And I don't think US would be comfortable with another nation who said that, who's like, look, at all of our out of meat testing essentially is going to be done by ourselves. You could try to catch us in competition. We'll invite you to our nationals when we know our nationals is coming and everyone knows it's coming and you guys are invited to show up. But leading into that, we're going to do our own. And that's what our system is. That's going to be a hard sell for everyone else.
Like the basis of America, man. I mean, come on. It's like everyone else in the world does it this way. Cool. We're going to do it this way and deal with it.
And then be like, bro, you trust me? Bro, you trust me? Dog, you call me a liar? It'll be like, oh man, what is happening right now?
On the flip side, Bill, I wonder, because we don't know how much a WADA test costs in each country and how much the travel is. I wonder if it's because our capitalism in our country is the reason why the USADA tests are so much more expensive, because they know they can get all this money from UFC. They know they can get all this money from weightlifting. And so in another country, the test might be way cheaper. So it's almost our downfall in this scenario as well.
Right. Yeah. Especially with UFC, with that, multi-million dollar, sport, when they're able to actually pay for the testing. And then it comes down to like powerlifting and weightlifting. We're like, what the fuck? Like, we ain't got no money, bro. Come on. Like, give us a break. But if they're trying to give us the same pricing or whatever. I mean, again, if Larry and USAPL were complaining about like what it was going to cost to do, like, I don't remember how many tests they said they had to do, would bankrupt us. Like, can you imagine what 4,000 tests a year ends up costing? Like, holy mackerel. Dana must be, you imagine that? It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, Dana, don't worry about Uncle Dana. They sold it for $4 billion. But speaking of money, they did mention with the USAPL Pro Series coming out, I believe the figure was a $200,000 price tag. They said instead of allocating that towards IPF Worlds, they be allocated towards a pro series. Arian, do you want to maybe catch us up a little bit on that?
Yeah, so for the kids following along at home, if you go down to the second to last paragraph, it says, "We are deeply disappointed in this decision by the IPF. Our hearts go out to our national team members who have had the rug pulled out from under them. We released the announcement of our new pro series on social media earlier this week, which basically they announced like, the logo, and they said more information to come as far as schedule and everything like that. So now they're giving us some more details. Details will be coming soon, but one of the first details we want to share is that the monies previously allocated for participation in the IPF events will now be given directly back to the athletes. This new level of competition will pay out over $200,000 to our pro athletes and raise the level of competition to even greater heights."
So that's a lot of fucking money. Was it $200,000 they were paying towards the IPF? How does that break up?
with between
expenses,
paying for drug testing, the expenses for the coaches and the referees and all that stuff. And then I guess what USAPL paid, half of the registration fee, was it, Arian, or something like that? Or
no, I mean, I don't know all the direct expenses. I mean, the main expense, I believe, in the rule book is that it's a €400 yearly membership fee to be part of the IPF. And then I believe for NAPF, it's $100 membership. It's the other things that Bill was saying as far as head coaches, assistant coaches, referees. USAPL is paying for a lot of those expenses and giving them stipends to go. And there's lots of world championships and North American championships. I think we have somewhere around 11 national team coaches. And then, obviously, each has multiple assistant coaches, and we send one referee. So all that added up could be, 100,000 or more in expenses, depending on what the flights are, what the hotels are, that kind of stuff.
But didn't they chip into the the lifter fee or whatever it was for didn't USAPL pay a portion of the lifters entry or whatever?
It's indirect cost because, for example, the direct cost is €50 participation and €50 anti-doping. And then we do our OMT, but USAPL has to put money into their own organization to have someone do the paperwork, someone to send for the out of meet testing. They cover like your mileage for your gas and everything like that. And so those additional costs of, secretarial work, accounting work, all this stuff is like hidden costs that you don't see.
Even though the secretary and all those coaches have already done all the work, all the paperwork and stuff like that, now you ain't getting shit.
I mean, I get paid as the national team coach, but also the USAPL secretary, Angela, is talking with all the different teams and submitting the nominations and doing all that. And she gets paid per year for being the secretary. Right.
But I'm saying now that you're not, and even though you did all the paperwork and, had to corral all the people and all that kind of stuff. And
last year and this year, a number of us did work and we don't get any money.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Right. So, yeah. And plus they saved all that money from last year too. So that's where the $200K is probably coming from.
Well, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting how it all rolls out. And if it obviously appears as though the USAPL has no want to become WADA compliant. That is not going to change. So an obvious split is coming. Is this split going to happen sooner rather than later? Or are they going to roll this out and milk the suspension right up the full 12 months? Obviously, while they are a part of the IPF, a new affiliate cannot come into place. They do not want their top stars necessarily on the IPF stage. That doesn't help them if they know we're leaving.
According to their letter, they do want that. And the IPF doesn't want that.
Right.
I'm just saying, according to what was just
according
read.
to their letter, they got suspended for doing too many drug tests.
Yeah.
That was
so
they did.
So the right strategic thing for the USAPL to do, assuming that they eventually want to leave and do their own thing independent of the IPF, which for all of their social media posts and all of their press releases looks very much like that is what they do want to do. Again, talking about the leadership specifically here. The right strategic thing for them to do is to milk the suspension for everything that it's worth, right? Like the longer that you can stand there and point fingers at someone specific, this case being the IPF, and be like, look, they're the bad guys. They're stopping you from doing what you want to be able to do, and you're American, so you're allowed to do whatever you want to do. And because we love you, we're putting on this pro series where we're going to give out $200,000. So we're the good guys. Like the longer that they can do that, the better it looks for them, right? And also it prevents the creation of a new federation, which then would affiliate with the IPF. And the sooner that federation can start up and affiliate, the worse it is for the USAPL. So like the right thing for them to do is actually to milk this for as long as possible.
100%. And all of their biggest stars, Orhi, Connor, Amanda Lawrence, all of them will not be on the IPF platform, on the IPF stream, and helping anything towards the IPF. You are now, and it's not our fault, the IPF suspended you. You are now, you have to do, you're not going to Worlds, do our Pro Series. So you're going to be doing the Pro Series instead. Don't worry, we got you covered for at least the next year. So on that level, it would be, but you hope, and I don't know, that's like if you want to go that route and milk that route to be like, all right, do we care if you're not on the IPF? For us as an organization, it's better for our stars to stick with us if we know we're parting ways with the IPF. Why do we want to boost up the IPF World Championships and give them our stars and lend them our stars to help out? There's a reason why the UFC, for instance, isn't going to do a cross promotion with somebody else with their biggest stars. So keep them, put them in the Pro Series that you're trying to bump up. You've been advertising and keep them. You got them at least for 12 months. You're right. You would ride the suspension out. And then if they want to throw on more, you just stay in place. The moment you leave, the moment you say we're gone, which they still might, I think this would be, if you're for the lifters, I think the moral good decision would be if you know for a fact you do not want to be aligned with the IPF, you have different visions and it's not lining up, you step away and you allow another federation to come in. And if anybody wants to go the IPF route, they now can go the IPF route, qualify, go to the World Championships. And then you could do your Pro Series.
Yeah, sorry, a few things. So if they cared about those lifters, they wouldn't have not done the WADA testing to let them compete at IPF Worlds when they were told multiple years ago, this is what you need to do or else you're going to be suspended. So that's A. B, I know I joined late. So was there an actual judgment that we've seen, like financially, of like what USAPL owes? So basically whenever they owe money is most likely when they're going to be out, right? Like there's probably because in that original form or whatever, I guess it was the IPF suggested this should be the fine or whatever it is.
Yeah, it was like 17,500 euros in total.
So basically, once there's money owed at some point, then it's either pay or you're gone, right? I mean, I would assume they can't just write it out for the whole year and then on, what's today's date? The 28th. So on August 28th next year, they're like, okay, cool, now we're leaving.
Yeah, the problem at the moment
we're
is
not
that
paying. Right.
The only statement we've seen is the USAPL one. We haven't seen the official letter from the IPF. We haven't seen any statement from the IPF. We haven't seen the outcome of the doping hearing panel. So everything that we're getting is through the USAPL PR spin.
Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I also wonder if you can appeal it to the IPF appeals committee without paying the fine, because you're appealing it saying that the fine, I shouldn't pay it. So
yeah, for sure.
That could delay it possibly a little bit.
But
but again, eventually they're going to owe money.
Yeah.
And then is it worth it to them? Maybe they paid $20,000 to string it out for a year. Yeah, maybe.
Anyone listening, listen, if you are the USAPL and you are not WADA compliant, you don't want to be WADA compliant, and that's fine. Let's just say that's fine. Agree to disagree. How do you justify sticking around to block a new Fed coming in so people can, if they choose to go the IPF route, they have that avenue. They have the freedom to choose.
The problem is that the ethics clearly point in one direction and the game theory clearly points in the opposite direction, right? And so a self-interested party, not saying selfish party necessarily, a self-interested party is likely to choose the thing which is best for their self-interest, even if it is not best for like the world as a whole. And that's a general problem, right? Like that comes up all the time. That's the same reason that people drive cars that burn a hole in the environment over Australia and New Zealand, right? Like, it's because the ethical decision and the decision which is in your own self-interest aren't well aligned.
I will tell you this. If the USAPL decides before we get fined, before any of that, we're going to back out because you know what? We don't want to, this has been years in the making. Some people are saying like, well, it's been months. It's been years. This has been a fight that's been going on for years, and they know the writings on the wall. They know we're not water compliant. We don't want to be water compliant. At some point, this is going to come to a head. So it's been years. It hasn't been months. But if they know we're never going to be water compliant, we all know we're going to split. The most ethical thing to do is to step aside, let a new Fed come. So those lifters that are being barred from going to the Worlds, you can't cry crocodile tears for them if you know your presence fighting to be aligned with the global body is blocking their pathway when you know you have absolutely no interest in actually staying with this global body. You're just blocking the pathway for a new federation to come, for those lifters to possibly take that new Fed on and go that route. And I don't know if the USAPL is going to do that. I'm not ready to throw the judgment in and say that is what they're going to do. They might surprise us all, come out and say, you know what, it wasn't in the interest of blocking anybody. They were doing this. We legitimately want to work this out. Now we know we can't work this out. Come to the realization we're about to back away. And we're not going to write out a suspension and then stick around and you guys will try to have to suspend us all over again. So another set of people miss another Worlds. And oh, by the way, there's more than just classic Worlds. Eventually there's going to be equipped Worlds, bench only equipped Worlds, and all these other World Championships. More and more national teams miss out. So the USAPL might be like, no, it stops here. For the lifters, we know we don't want to be a part of this Fed. If you lifters want to be and go to the Worlds, we're not going to be the ones stopping you until we get our Pro Series ready, etc.
If they cared about the lifters, they would have sent them to the NAPF so they could actually have competed internationally.
Talk about it. Don't just throw it out there because let's act like the listeners don't know what you're talking about. So tell the story.
Yeah. So there was the North American Championships was 2 weekends ago or whatever it was. And basically the USAPL decided not to nominate any lifters for that because they were worried about the judgment or whatever was happening with the IPF suspension. But then literally like 3 days after nominations were due for the NAPFs and they couldn't send in nominations anymore, they decided to send nominations in for all the other world championships, the classic, bench and equipped world championships. So if they legitimately cared about the lifters, they would have at least done that NAPF because they actually would have competed in that. And there would have been hundreds of lifters that wanted to do that competition. And it was in Orlando?
It was in the US, for God's sake.
Yeah, it was in the US. It was in Orlando. I think it was 2 weekends ago, whatever it was. And yeah, so I mean, literally, like if they cared about the lifters, and this was not just the national champions that would have went to this. This was, a much bigger event where they can send bigger teams to these regional international events, which are nice. But yeah, it sucks. So then basically you lost out on a whole year, 2 whole years of international competition now because of them caring about the lifters.
And why do you think they just said nobody's going to lift at the North American Championship?
Couldn't tell you. They literally, like I said, they changed their mind 3 days later and put in nominations for the World Championships. So I could not tell you. If you would have said that they didn't put any nominations in for the World Championships, then I'd be like, fine. They were totally like anti-IPF at the point. They knew some sort of suspension was coming or this, that, whatever, or they were just boycotting. I get it.
Like at least it would have been consistent, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It made no sense whatsoever to literally be hosting the event in America. And Larry, the president of the USAPL, is also the president of the North American Powerlifting Federation. So he's basically hurting his own federation by hurting both of his federations by not letting them do this. It made no sense.
So now today, if you're the USAPL, the best thing that you can do for all of the lifters, not just a bunch of your lifters, but actually all of them, is to immediately unaffiliate from the IPF, like today, and allow the beginning of a new federation to start. And so all of that stuff, which doesn't happen overnight, can start rolling. And people who want to remain affiliated with the IPF can start doing that. And people who care more about the Pro Series or the USAPL specifically, or whatever the case may be, can stay with the USAPL. Any other decision does not have the best interest of the lifters at heart, no matter how it is spun, right?
Correct. If their decision is to leave, in the best interest of all lifters involved, them leaving as soon as possible is the best case for everybody.
Sorry. There's actually two possible good outcomes, right? One of them is they decide we will become WADA compliant, and they start immediately working on that. Or if they decide they don't want to do that, they immediately unaffiliate. Any other decision is not good.
Let's take them at their word, and let's say that they 100% do not want to be WADA compliant. They don't believe in WADA compliancy, and that's just not going to happen. And let's not enter into a debate whether WADA compliant is better than their testing. Let's just leave all that aside. Let's just say, because whatever, that's fine. I'm not even mad at anybody who, I believe in WADA, but if you don't, I don't, I'm fine with it. You know, it's cool. It's just, let's just say they don't believe in WADA compliancy. They don't want to become WADA compliant. Is there any conceivable way that you could still say you are pro lifter and doing this for the lifters and remain an IPF affiliate when you categorically do not believe in their system, have said over and over you do not, and you staying in there stops any lifters from going to the IPF through a new affiliate? Is there any way that you can have both? Is there? Because I don't see it.
Can you say that again? That didn't
All
make
right.
sense.
Is there any way that you could be pro lifter,
right,
like they're saying, but remain an IPF affiliate, knowing you will never be WADA compliant and that a split is inevitable, but you're going to hold your place as a placeholder and essentially block an IPF affiliate from coming in?
The only way that you can do that is if you believe that the IPF is actively bad for powerlifting as a whole. And like, I don't see how you could possibly believe that to be true. But if you did believe that the IPF was like actually evil and was like actually a negative force on the world, then that could be true.
So you harming them and be like, no, we have to stop you guys from lifting there because we're doing you a favor, we're doing everybody a favor, blah blah blah. Because you were definitely strategically placed there at that point. Because why are you affiliated with somebody you don't want to be affiliated with? Doesn't make sense. I don't get that.
Yeah, that was literally my answer too. Is like we are right, you are wrong. We're making sure everyone knows you're wrong. You know, it's very, very American for sure.
It's very American.
I don't know. It's tough for me, man. I always try to look at it like I think all parties are operating in good faith. So I'm going to look at just if I just clean the slate. I know, sorry.
No parties in this are operating in good faith. Let's just start there.
Well, there is a good case to be made that neither party is.
It's still a level playing field.
But if we just say that, that both are operating in good faith, I think if the IPF was hoping the USAPL would turn around, and the USAPL was hoping the IPF would turn around, and they were both hoping they would at some point reach an agreement. Can we all agree we are long past that, and all parties now are probably putting up their hands like, why are we still dancing to this song? Yeah, I think we're all there.
I think you make a good point that, both parties are acting in good faith and believe in what they are fighting for. I think part of the reason why you may have seen some difference in the original social media posts versus now, and why you may have seen some difference in not nominating lifters before versus now, is that maybe before, when they were trying to fight and do meetings and have different options, well, what if we do this system? What if we do that system? What if we go through this process? In that case, they're like, okay, let's continue the fight. Let's continue to attack. Let's not nominate lifters. But now more recently, it seems like, okay, we tried all the options. None of them, their IPF is not going and CSIS is not going for any of them. So there's no other option but to us to split. So that's when they changed their idea and said like, hey, seems like it's a split's happening. Let our lifters compete for the rest of the year. And then we're over. And then this judgment came down. So they're not going to lift for the rest of the year, but it could still be over. The other thing I wanted to add is that maybe a lot of people listening only know entities. They know USAPL or they know USAPL EC. They don't know the actual people. And so they, assume, oh, USAPL is bad. They're going to do this on bad faith, or they're just trying to screw over lifters. I know a lot of them. I mean, it must be tough for them. I mean, they have a lot of stress going on with a lot of different things. So while your best business tactic might be whatever, plan A, there may be another plan where like, okay, well, you're attacking or you're fighting USAPL is fighting the IPF on the Arnold world record still. They're fighting the IPF on this drug testing. They're fighting USPA for membership. They're fighting COVID restrictions and what meets they can run. They're still fighting the transgender lawsuit in Minnesota. How many things can that EC on a voluntary basis handle and deal with? Or is it worth saying, let's just not put our time, money, and effort into this, and let's focus on these other things and the Pro Series and Nationals and move on? And I think some of them may go with that path. They might vote for that and say, listen, it's over. Let's just move on. Let's focus on these other things and let's focus on the future.
You'd have battle fatigue with all those fighting you just mentioned. And listen, I honestly, man, I think most people are good at the heart and are operating good faith.
That's your biggest fault.
Well, I know that. I know, but
I've been told the same thing. That I'm naive.
I think if we knew, all right, that kind of threw me. It is true though. I've been told this, all right. But I do honestly believe that most people, when you get to know them, you get close to them, kind of like Arian said, you're like, okay, they're not that bad. It is true. Some people will operate in terms of what's best for themselves, or almost like a survival tactic, or, what's best for you might not be best for all. But I do think if the writing's on the wall, they're going to pull out. We're going to find out real quick anyways. Put it this way. If we get indication that they're going to ride out this suspension and not leave, you kind of know. It'll be harder and harder to justify 6 months down the road when everybody who's a supporter for the USAPL and anti-IPF is like, just leave. We've been saying just leave for when it gets close to like a year anniversary, people saying just leave. And they're like, what are we still doing here? Then you got to start asking questions. If that starts happening, if they don't leave at a certain point, it'll get harder and harder for them to justify staying. And people will start questioning the motives. And it starts becoming this looks more and more strategic. If they leave,
that's the motive to stay, is to increase their business.
Right. And block competition. While you're getting your Pro Series together, you don't have another Fed taking away anybody.
Right. So if you're scared you're going to lose these higher level elite lifters to the IPF, then stay there. Don't let them compete, and
get the Pro
they
Series
end up
going.
Competing with you.
Do you think you're delaying the?
Maybe they like it. Maybe they win some money, and all of a sudden they're like, "Yeah, this isn't so bad."
Right. You got a point. You got a chance to win them over. It's the inevitable that it's going to happen. But before the inevitable happens, you try to sell people, both the viewers, the stars, and everybody. Try to sell it. Do your best, for sure.
It's like you get like a 1 year head start versus doing it the other way, right? Like imagine you're starting a business and there's a competitor, and there's one decision that you can make that makes them not be able to start for 12 months. So 12 months from now, you are established, you've got regular customers, which is what the USAPL members become, right? Like
it's a no-brainer.
But like
strategically, it's a no-brainer, but there is other factors there, right?
Right.
Yeah, but do you feel like you're just delaying the inevitable? Like you're focusing on the next 1 or 2 years rather than the next 10 or 20 years? Like eventually, like you said, an IPF affiliate will come, and eventually lifters will want to go through an IPF affiliate to Worlds.
But under no circumstances would you not be able to convince me I wouldn't want that affiliate to be coming a year later.
Yeah, like I don't think it's making a trade-off there, right? Like it's optimizing for 1 year from now versus optimizing for 10 years from now. You're actually making the same decision today. Like it's not I'm going to hurt myself 1 year from now for a 10-year advantage, or vice versa. It's like what helps you in the 1 year range will probably still be a good decision like 10 years down the line. So like I actually don't think those things are in conflict with each other.
The other thing I wonder that could maybe be a tough decision is if any of those EC members want to compete or coach or referee in the IPF in the future. Almost the entire EC has competed or coached in a world championship before. Some of them may be still interested in doing so. So if you make the relationship so bad and you're indebted to the IPF for so much money and drag it on for so long, I wonder how that would feel like going to Worlds and how you would be treated, or whether they'd find a way to not let you go to Worlds?
On an individual level, I'm not sure. I think on an individual level, if you were to leave the USAPL and join a new IPF affiliate, I'm pretty sure they're going to take you with open arms. And the IPF, I think there'll be like, it's the same. I think they can't afford to be too petty. Is that what you mean?
I mean, I'm pretty sure the IPF blocked some Powerlifting Australia members strictly for what they said on social media and attacked the IPF.
Oh, that's different though. Okay. So it's a little different. Are you saying like specific people who went on an attack, like a part of a campaign, saying like, that's a little different?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we don't know what's been said and what's been done, but it could be like the whole package of like, what was said, how much money is owed, how long you try and drag this out on purpose. And
that's not individual. So you put what was said is individual, money owed, how long you dragged it out is an individual to the body. So you can't put them both together. But so that's where I'm kind of splitting.
Yeah. So it's the Powerlifting Australia thing was specific comments, right? Like I don't remember the exact verbiage, but there's something in our agreement to be part of a national federation and therefore part of the international federation is that we have to represent our federation well when we're in public, right? And so like my federation choosing to do something different versus me going on Instagram and being like, fuck Gaston, fuck the IPF, et cetera, right? Like those are really, really different things. And a lot of the Powerlifting Australia people, not a lot of some of the Powerlifting Australia people had been doing that, the second option where they'd been, specifically calling things out in like really bad faith ways on social media, which is not acting in good faith and it is not representing your federation well, which is different to Powerlifting as Australia as a whole deciding to go, hey, actually, we want to do our own thing now. Though that was obviously a lot more complicated than I made it sound just then. I don't want to trivialize that.
First off, can you just Ryan, can you make sure you get me that snippet of when Gary said F the president real quick so I can use that later on?
I'm sorry, did you just call me Gary?
I heard the same thing.
What did I say?
Gary. You said Gary.
Gary, whatever. I thought it said Rory, sorry. But I think one of the other big issues here with this whole thing is like Arian saying with the EC possibly going back, whatever, is like the IPF ruling that just came out that you can't be part of another non-WADA compliant federation. So literally coaches, lifters, referees cannot be part of USAPL. Well, I mean, technically you can't be part of USAPL and the IPF anyway, because it's a non-WADA compliant federation. But if there is at some point, a IPF affiliate in the United States, you can't go back and forth between the two. I'm sorry, if you're planning on going to a world championship, you can't be back and forth between the two.
Nationals is the new addition.
Oh, that's right. Nationals also, correct.
But I don't know if they're going to enforce it.
Right, but
let's say everyone follows the rules. Let's just say everyone follows the rules. You wouldn't be able to compete at nationals in both federations. If you were only competing locally, you could jump backwards and forwards locally, and that would be fine.
Right, but I'm more talking about like coaches that have
coaches
lifters
is the big
that
one,
go
right?
to IPF Worlds, but also would want to stay and win money, so they couldn't actually go back and forth and like handle their people at Worlds and go handle them at their pro whatever meet in USAPL.
That becomes quite a hard business decision, actually, if you have to commit one way or the other.
Right.
Yeah. So real quick, just to read it off of the Constitution, Section 14. It says, any athlete, coach, referee, or official that participates in any competition which is organized by a sporting body that has not received recognition from WADA and is thus non-compliant with the code, shall be automatically rendered ineligible and shall not be permitted to take part in any authorized national or international powerlifting event for 12 months from the date of last non-compliant event. And then it says if you continue to do it, an additional 12 months from the date of non-compliant event will be added on for a maximum of 24 months. The decision to extend the period of ineligibility will be at the sole discretion of the Anti-Doping Commission. So technically they could extend it further.
Right.
So what happens at the end of the 24
Ireland
months?
do that meet though? Doesn't Ireland have like some sort of big meet over there?
I mean, technically all us USAPL coaches, athletes, and referees are 12 months suspended.
Right. That's what I was saying.
Even before this decision.
I know, but like, doesn't the Irish coach have like that big meet he has at his own gym or something like that? That's like
ABS something or other.
Yeah, that's clearly not a WADA run meet. Yeah. So I guess they don't really take a look at that and
I mean,
enforce
this went into place January 1st. So I wonder, how long it is before they enforce it, or if they do enforce it, or if the Abs Pro meet says, hey, we're an unsanctioned meet. What's that have to do with anything? We're just a gym meet. I don't know.
Hey, Arian, what does the Constitution say happens after that 24 months? So it says 12-month ban. If you keep doing it, another 12-month ban. What happens after that? You get kicked out? You get fined? Like what happens then?
That's when it says the decision to extend the period is at the sole discretion of the Anti-Doping Commission.
Oh, that's again after the 24. They can again go, actually, we're going to make a new decision and we're going to extend it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Things are going to look at 2022
Spicy.
2022 is going to be spicy. We could hopefully we will have a new federation that's IPF affiliated. I'm not saying this as I'm saying this literally for the lifters, not for myself. I'm not American. This is going to affect me directly. My path and everything that happens with me doesn't. But for people who want to go to IPF Worlds, you got to give them a pathway and let them choose. And that's it. Everyone in the US says, let the market dictate. The best, if the market is always right, then you allow entry into the market and let the market dictate. So people who want to go the IPF route, so you go local nationals qualifier, IPF Worlds, and if you're an SBD athlete, here's a route for you. Okay. Cause I know the Pro Series is talking about, some people have been putting in, would you rather win Worlds or possibly multiple times or possibly win money? But I don't think so. Again, I've said it on the podcast and some people don't seem to be picking up the type of money that's involved the IPF route. So when you were SBD sponsored, I'm gonna use SBD because I know their money in terms of what they give out. I don't know the figures for other companies, and I'm sure they do sponsorships as well with money, but I'm more comfortable using this. You're a sponsored athlete. You could fly as a 20-something to the other side of the world. This case would be Europe, all expenses paid, get new kit. What is that? $2,000 to $3,000. You win your weight class, not the event, best lifter, but your weight class. You get $5,000, and I'm told it went up to $6,000 this year. Somebody slid in my DMs and told me this, but whatever. $5,000 to $6,000 in your pocket right there. What are we at? $5,000 to $6,000 with $2,000 to $3,000 on top of that with expenses. We're getting close to $9,000 range right there. And oh, by the way, you punched your ticket to Sheffield, which is now in the UK. So you could possibly fly to Sheffield, all expenses. Again, another couple K. So we're over $10,000, either cash or expenses paid. And you're flying around the world like a true professional athlete. And you have they had, the previous prize package, you're breaking records and you're making money, you're winning over it was an enormous amount of money that was on the line, far more than any of the meets we would see previously or going to see. If you go, that's the IPF route. So when people start talking like, look, would you rather go IPF for Worlds or would you rather try to make some money? You can have both going the IPF route. I don't know if it hasn't been said enough. And when I say this on the podcast, I posted, hey, did you know the IPF is probably the biggest money meet in terms of money being handed out? And people in the comment section of that video I clipped and put on the King of this Instagram was like, that's got to be bullshit, man. Come on, man. I'm calling you out. This is wolf tickets. And I'm like, dog, I'm getting this. This is real. This is real stats. This is the money being doled out. It is what it is, kid. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not making this up off the top of my head, man. So I don't think people realize the money. Maybe the general population of powerlifting is never going to make it that far fair. So you probably won't make that kind of money. But that is the money for the top end people. And then it'd be hard to tell somebody, how can I talk you out of being a world champion can I talk you out of being a world champion for $3,000? Probably not. If I'm going to tell my kids, my grandkids for the rest of my life, I'm a legit world champion. A federation has 120 nations attached to it. I go against people all over the world and become a world champion. You tell your friends, you tell your coworkers, you tell anybody they don't have to know any more than world champion, right? That you're not going to buy that for $3,000 from very many people. You can't walk up to many world champions in many sports and be like, I'll give you $3,000 and you were never a world champion in your sport. Most of those people will be like, is that what you think it's worth? Is that what you think, that memory of that international competition and everything that went with it, all the hard work, everything, you think $3K? Like it's not going to be the money that's going to entice people. I don't think if that's the selling point, I don't think that's it. I'm not putting down the Pro Series. I think it's great. I think I do it. Have these competitions, have the best in the nation that you can gather, show up and battle it out. And if a few people make a few $1,000s here and there, that's great. I'm just saying, if that is the enticement to not go to Worlds, that's a tough one for me. For me, anyways, it's hard for me to wrap my head around.
Aren't we still talking about the same 1% of lifters here?
Yeah.
I mean, in reality, like
Yes.
the people that are going to win money are more than likely at these Pro Series, are more than likely the ones that are going to qualify for IPF Worlds.
Beat Ashton Ruska for that money, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of the same
beat Taylor
thing.
Atwood. Taylor Atwood's going in December to Sabres meet. Have fun.
I mean, in fairness, we don't know what the structure of this Pro
That's
Series
true.
is going to look like.
That's what I mean, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I mean, but
It will
but
likely
most
be the
likely-
same group of people,
Right,
but
so,
there may
okay.
be some sort of divisioning that makes it like.
Yeah. So I was going to say, like, so when I did Virginia State Championship in May, it's the same guy who's running that like big money meet in Virginia also. And what it was every single division, every single open division had a monetary prize on it. So the top 3 in each weight class got 500, 300, 100 or something like that. Depending on how many people were in your weight class, you could win more money. Ashton shows up at every one of these things. He literally just shows up. He does like openers. He wins best lifter, wins his weight class. So he leaves with like 15, 16, 1700 bucks and he goes home. But like still, when, you know, I had, you know, a bunch of people that I coached there also. And a lot of these people who can't even qualify for nationals are walking out of a meet with 300 bucks in their pocket, 100 bucks in their pocket. Like, that's cool. That's something that they will always, always, always remember.
It's very
Like,
cool.
you walked out of this thing, you got cash in the hand kind of thing. You know what
Like
I mean?
it's not life-changing money, but it's a
Right.
really cool experience
It
anyway.
is cool,
Correct.
man.
So if you're doing like that kind of thing throughout the federation, it's going to have a much bigger impact than handing out 25K to one person at a meet or something like that. If that makes any sense.
No, I know what you mean.
Right.
I don't know
Because
the
like, I mean,
feasibility-
everyone at this competition, with the exception of Ashton, is not going to ever go in IPF Worlds.
the only thing I don't know the feasibility or logistics of like how many checks can hand out to how many people they have, like the, you know, I don't know. I'm not sure here.
Yeah, but if you have $200,000 and you give 4,000 each state and say, hey, run your state championship, here's $4,000 money, and dole it out that way. I mean, I'm just saying, like something like that. You know, you're basically touching way more people with that than
True.
just
Yeah, so
saying,
there's an
these 5
option that
meets
you
we're
give.
doing. It's going to be Amanda versus Ashton versus Taylor at each one of them, and then here's your money.
But then
And
you're
everyone
not
else is
gonna,
so
like,
there's-
why the fuck are we still here? Like, why don't we just go to USPA or whatever? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
what's the point?
Go ahead,
I don't know.
Rory.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
depending on the structure of this Pro Series, it could end up being like a small amount of money going to the top 10% of lifters rather than a lot of money going to the top 1% of lifters or something like that. And because we don't know, it's very hard to look at that and say, look, like that's not worth it. Like it depends on what you want out of it. It depends like what that structure ends up looking like. You know, it might be set up in such a way that Ashton can't go and win all of the money, or Taylor Atwood can't go and win all of the money, even if he tried really hard.
I would
But we
say,
don't know yet.
yes. So this is what I would say. If you're amongst the 1% or elite, like the superstars, that would be tough to negotiate you out of world title with the money that goes involved with the world title, and then Sheffield and the money that goes involved with Sheffield. That would be tough to talk those 1%ers out. But for the other people that there's far more of them, exactly. If the pay structure is like more geared towards, like you said, the top 10%ers as opposed to the top 1%ers, maybe we're talking here. Maybe, you know what I mean? Look at, man, if I top 10% make a little coin, like Bill said, it feels good to make a little, it's not life-changing money, but how cool is it to walk away with a check? And you're like, hey, whatever. I made a little bit of money here. Dinner's on me. Drinks are on me. You know, you tell your girl, we're going to Sizzle.
But I mean, I just want to back around again to like what USAPL has kind of been saying this whole time is like, we're not in this for the top % of lifters. That's why we're fighting this IPF thing, right? They keep saying the federation is about the masses. It's not about the 1% or top 5% or 10%, whatever it is. So what are you actually doing for those people? I guess those are the people that like the more drug testing, I guess, is that's what they're doing for them. But
I have to say, I really like that rhetoric, but I'm not sure that the USAPL has always acted in a way that is consistent with that.
Of course, right. But again, the same thing is there going to be money for bench only people. There's going to be money for masters lifters or sub juniors or juniors, or is it just open lifters? Because then you're, again, cutting it down to a subcategory of like, okay, we're just worried about these people and not everyone else kind of thing. So again, going against your word. And hopefully there is money though. It would be like, hey, the M3s, here's your money. Let's go. Ryan, you'd be all set, bro.
Dog, I'm like 6 months older than you.
You have to slide that in there.
But no, I know 200K sounds like a lot of money, but if it's spread out throughout a full year, several meets, etc., you will have to pick your path. So here it is then. Let's if you go that route, like that's pretty cool. If you hit like the top 10, right? So people who went to nationals who were, second, third, fourth, fifth are going to be collecting checks, but you might lose some of the top end, like the people who won nationals who were like, well, I could go to Worlds, make more money, and then go to a Sheffield, make far more money and be a world champion and blah, blah, blah. So then it becomes, do you want to retain your stars? It's tough because you can't cover all bases. It becomes very difficult. I don't know. I'm very interested, and I'm not looking, man. It sounds good anyways. Whoever sticks with the USAPL, I'm sure they're going to do the best to take care of you. And I'm sure, I'm not sure. Maybe they're like, look, do we concede? If we take a look at the money that can be made going through the IPF system and then going all the way up through Sheffield, if you can't match that dollar for dollar and you don't have the prestige of a world title attached, maybe you say that's a loss then trying to match that. Maybe you don't try to match that. Maybe that's a poor business decision to try to match it when you know you can't. So you go another route. Like Bill's kind of saying.
Sorry. I was just looking at this. So the 2020 payouts for the Arnold for USAPL was $45,000. Right? Yeah. So you're basically saying you're going to do that 4 times throughout the year, which is cool. But again, it's the top 2 or 3 in each one of those competitions, not even weight classes, not even whatever, is getting money.
Yeah, I mean,
see how the money goes that quickly.
And I mean, it depends. Like Ryan said, I'm interested too of how they set the series. Cause like, let's say you have to do multiple meets to get to the premier meet. Let's say you have to do a state pro meet, then a regional pro meet, and then the Arnold is the top dog. It's like, okay, you have to qualify, get to the Arnold to the top dog. And that's probably where the most money is going to be, or maybe it could be all the money. Like maybe the state pro meet just gets you into the next system. You don't actually win any money there. So they could throw all 200K into the Arnold, the main one, or maybe smaller prizes along the way. And maybe some people will be happy to just say like, hey, I made it to the regional pro meet.
So so in Virginia, that's Saber's cool. Like, that was his original idea, was like every single competition, he's going to have a pro division, right? And the top 2 in each of those pro divisions from every single one of his meets throughout the year gets to go into in the end of the year, gets to go to this one big money meet where he's going to put all the resources in. So I think that's what's going to happen next year. So like, again, like, this year he decided to scrap that idea and be like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to, try to get everybody I can get to go to this meet. The top, whatever, 24 in the country. But originally that was his plan, was like every single one of these meets, cause he does at least one a month. He's going to have the top 2 or 3 in each one of those meets qualify for this pro meet at the end of the year and have this big Virginia pro meet. So maybe the USAPL kind of follows that, and they do some sort of regionals with that. Maybe that would be kind of cool, or I don't know how it would work. Yeah, but it could be interesting to see.
Look at it. It sounds cool enough. And we are used to seeing a gradual progression for athletes in most sports, from amateur to pro and on up. Again, we do have something like that in place that I think a lot of people are ignorant of and not fully aware that, you go to you win your nationals, you go to Worlds, you win Worlds, you go to Sheffield, and along the way, you actually are collecting money. And some people just don't get it, man. I'm surprised, but it is what it is. But the difference would be that along the way, the scenery keeps changing, so it keeps it interesting. So if you go to, and that's the toughest part with powerlifting, I don't want to watch the same 3 people in the battle it out over and over, or the same 10 people keep battling it out over and over. Powerlifting isn't like hockey, baseball, basketball, whatever. You can't watch it. It's closer to boxing or MMA in that I can watch 2 guys fight and have a rematch. But if you told me the same 2 guys were going to fight 5 times this year and 5 times next year, I'd be like, listen, by the 3rd match, you don't have me. I'm going to need something else. So that's where, when you started off at a local level, the nationals, then you went to the world championships, it became new people and it got bigger and bigger. And oh my God, now people from all over the world, there's that excitement. And then Sheffield was supposed to be something entirely different altogether. And you could only qualify by being a world champion, which is a very unique, high prestigious award. So I'm not saying they can't do something. They're going to have to be very creative to make powerlifting able to, and I'm a powerlifting nerd, but to have my appetite that I'm going to watch conceivably the same people in the same nation battle it out more than twice a year. If it's 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, like you're going to start losing me real quick, or your nationals just won't be very spicy to me anymore because I've seen it 5 times a year.
I mean, if they're lucky enough to have they go back and forth, right? Where you're like in tennis when you had like Nadal and Federer or whatever, where they were, no one was winning every single competition, right? It was like, he would win on the clay, he would win on the grass, and they were kind of split when it went to other surfaces, whatever. But it doesn't happen that way. At least not right now. There's no one weight class where it's like going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So yes, hopefully,
let's do just like clay and regular. Let's do raw with wraps, bench only.
Yes. Now we're talking. Everyone has to do something different.
See who's better at each one.
This is the idea we need.
To Bill's point, though, you're strong. 3 months later, the strength doesn't change enough. Where like in those other sports, strategy and the way the ball bounces could literally change.
Totally. That's what I'm saying. There's no back and forth.
Right. So, yeah. The way our sport is made, gravity is gravity, and you have to get stronger to change it. Whereas the difference in 3 months is not going to be enough. 6 months is okay. We might see a difference here, but it's not. So, but that's 2 shows a year. So it depends, but maybe they're like, look, we'll split it up. We do the heavyweights this time. We do the lightweights this time. So that's how the series changes.
But I don't know. Arian's onto something here. I don't know, man.
I don't like that idea. I'm going to be honest.
Get out of here because you're mixing the equip guys with the raw.
You start off raw by the end of the year.
Yeah. So you have to go adding more equipment zone and
Bonica's going to win all the money.
I saw someone suggest on Instagram today doing making them all super total meets as well. Squat, bench, deadlift, snatch, clean, and jerk. That'd mess it up a little bit.
In America, the super totals with the curl, buddy. Okay, come on.
Squat, bench, deadlift, curl, snatch, clean, and jerk. Let's go.
There we go.
That's my kind of meat. That's a joke, by the way.
How was everybody doing for time, by the way, Aaron? I thought we would have lost you a while ago. You good? You good, Playboy?
Good for now.
Okay.
It'd be interesting though. I mean, maybe from the regional level on up. Let's say Ashton beats everyone in his state and Jake beats everyone in his state. Then you go to the regional and they got to go head to head at each other. And then from there, let's say Ashton beats Jake. Ashton goes to the finals. Now he has to meet Bryce in the finals. So you get maybe a couple good matchups like that within your state, then regionals, and then the Arnold, whatever it is, in a year. But then the idea is still the second year. Do you want to see Ashton versus Jake for the Southeast region again?
I do like the idea of maybe having, sorry, I'll let you go in 1 sec. Let me get this one idea. If you have pools, so Ashton has to beat this A pool, Bryce is coming up through B pool, and they advance and meet at the end. I don't know if there's that much compelling pools to make it all the way through. If people I really only give a shit about the end when Ashton and Bryce face, I'm not going to follow it through. It's not like that. But conceivably, if you were what if we have matchups leading to the inevitable big showdown? It essentially what we're doing is we're taking the world model and we're bringing it to the national model. And just because at Worlds, you're separated by nation. So you become the best in your nation. Oh, I can't wait to see what happens when Brett and Russ go together, and you see it at Worlds.
But if they're doing with points, they don't have to be the same weight class. That's the kind of where they can get a little bit more interesting, right?
I'm not a big points guy. I don't think you are too.
Right, but this is going to have to be. This is for money. It's going to have to be points, right? That's the whole thing. Like
it
I get
either
it.
has to be points or evenly spread money across all weight classes.
Right, exactly.
Which changes the way the competition works as well, because it means people are going to try and get into weight classes where it's less competitive, so they're more likely to win and things like that, right? Like,
let's
combine weight classes like World Games.
Let's be honest right now. Let's be honest right now.
Just look at the Virginia money meet that's coming up. It's literally 24 lifters combined by points for the top 5 spots for money. That's literally what it is, and you have to assume that that's what this is all going to be with the USAPL.
Can we be totally honest right now, though? Do you guys prefer a competition where it's by points and formula, and that's how you find out? Or do you like head-to-head matches like you see at US Raw Nationals, like you see at Worlds, where it's like stacked 1 through 5, same weight class, let's rock and roll?
Coaching, I like both coaching-wise.
As a viewer,
I prefer head-to-head. Like as a viewer, I would rather watch Russ and Brett go back and forth and be within, 5 or 10 kilos of each other the whole time than Ray Williams go against Sergey Fedosenko. And the difference in their total is 400 kilos. And I just have to watch a scoreboard roll over with like the points that they're doing and attempting.
And you're like, okay, I guess I'll believe the formula this guy won. But if I use another formula, that guy won. And if 3 years later, we change the formula again, well, we could redo all of history. Guess what? You're not redoing history when Brett and Russell went. Some guy lifted more and that's the end of it. There's no revisionist history. It's just far more clear, compelling. What are we doing here? That's what, and I'm not saying, look, the Pro Series might do that. That's what I hope the Pro Series does and you can have a little bit of a mix where you're like, we have a couple guys in each weight class, a couple ladies in each weight class going head to head. So you'll get that as well as an overall lifter.
There's zero chance that happens.
Fuck. There's
no way. There's just no, it just doesn't make any sense how they can do that unless they do it like,
because that's Raw Nationals.
Our Nationals.
Yeah, that's right. Because that's Raw Nationals. Like,
right. They say Raw Nationals.
Like 5 Raw Nationals.
Gets $1,000. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, because that's literally what they did this year was at Raw Nationals, or I guess all of the Nationals, right, Arian? That the best lifter got like $2,500.
Yeah, they broke it down into the open for like raw equipped bench full power.
Right. Yeah. So every open best lifter got like whatever it was, $2,000, $2,500 or something like that.
I like that.
So that's right. So again, you're talking about bench, equipped bench, classic and equipped total. So that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 25. So I mean, that's $20,000 right there. They gave away.
The money goes quick, huh?
Right. That's 10% of what they're going to pay out for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Right. And that's only opens, right? If you then go junior, sub junior, M1, 2, 3, 4, like now we've got, and then remember there's more junior and sub junior weight classes than there are open. So it's not even times 7. It's like times 8. So like make it right.
That's only best lifter.
9, not 8.
That's only
9.
best lift. Again, that's 1% of leaders. That's best lifter only. Like the idea is more people get money in their pockets. You lose your money quick, huh? Trying to do this, trying to please.
Just trying to think of if you're giving away like a best female and a best male lift, like what's going to be the financial, like what are they going to be offering? That's going to be like, yes, I want to be involved in that. Right. For the elite of the elite, like how much are they going to have to offer? It's like the best lifter, like, cause the Virginia meet is like what, $7,500 to the winner. I think it is, which is nice. I mean, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's really good. I don't think I've ever seen more than that at a meet, advertised, at least as far as USAPL goes or IPF. Obviously the current open or the showdown or all those guys, they usually offer a lot more money to the overall winner. But like how much money, like what's a number that would like stop Amanda Lawrence from winning to be an IPF world champion or, Taylor Atwood or whatever?
The total pool of money ends up having to be like eye-wateringly large for individual prizes to be big enough to do that, right?
Right.
Like if you want to give first, second, and third open men and women 2 times bench, 2 times 3 lift, and only think about open. And if you want to split that up and give them enough money for it to be worth not having a shot at Sheffield, not having the glory of going to Worlds, not getting a gold medal at Worlds, like the total prize pool ends up having to be, and the money at Worlds, like the total prize pool ends up having to be like high 6 figures or 7 figures or something. He says, having not actually done the maths, right? Like the actual money needs to be a lot more than 200K sounds like a lot of money, but by the time you split it up a lot, doesn't go very far.
Yeah, if they said one meet is going to be 200K and that's what we're going to do it for everything, okay, that could work for one meet. But but they said series, which makes me think it's going to be multiple meets. So 10 meets time, is $20,000 a meet. That's not very much money to spread the love around.
Let's put it in perspective. Sheffield was $300,000 one meet.
Right, one meet, and what was it? Would it end up being? Was it 28 people or whatever it was?
One meet,
24, I think.
$300,000 one meet, and then the World Championships right now, I think, was $177,000 one meet. So,
and by the way, with Sheffield, that was prize money on top of the fact that they flew you and a coach there, put you in accommodation, gave you fully kitted you out in SPD gear, blah, 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 right? Like that's the prize money on top of the logistics having already been taken care of.
Same with World Championships often. It depends on where you're from, what nation you're coming from. But
but probably not the Pro Series, right? The Pro Series sounds like it's going to be you pay your own way there. And if you do well, you walk away with a check, which may or may not be enough to cover your costs, depending on exactly how that works.
Right. So it's going to, to answer Bill's question in terms of enticing you to bring you over, it's going to be tough for the very elite who are looking at it like, I fly all over the world, all expenses paid, fully kitted, and then I win money at the Worlds, and then I go to Sheffield. Like that's going to be a very tough situation. If you're going to go dollar for dollar at the top end, that's why I think you kind of got to go for not the elite. So anyways, I also wanted to say real quick, I don't know how much time we got here, fellas, but in terms of the IPF World Championships, we won't have the US there. So what it might look like without the US. You guys got a minute to talk about that?
Yeah, let me pull up the nominations real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that changes. So let's real quick, we'll just go through obviously the heavy favorites were going to be Heather Connor, Amanda Lawrence, and Bonica Brown in the women's. They were the heavy favorites to win. Obviously, there's other women that could have won from the U.S., but I think those are the heavy favorites. And then in the men, I think Jesus Oliveras was a heavy favorite. I'm trying to think who else.
Russell or he
was Russ. Yeah, Russ was a heavy favorite. Kaiko was a heavy favorite for sure.
So I have a pull up too. So amongst the nominations, not even betting odds, the same people for the men's that you said, Daniel Kamlentz was number one nomination. He was definitely in the closest battles though. In terms of a number one nomination, obviously he had Penna, Sergey Gladkick, Eddie Berglund. So he was the number one nomination, but it's tight. Right. Fedoshenko's number one nominated, 74. Taylor had already pulled out with other stuff going on. Russell was probably going to win 83s. 93, Kaiko, a number one nomination. 105s, Ashton had already pulled out, citing, I believe he said something about travel, etc. Travel is a disaster right now. They're talking about, anyways, we don't need to get into it, but Anatoly, he would have had a battle with Anatoly and that would have been riveting, as well as Emil Norland. So he was, believe it or not, as amazing as Ashton is, he had himself in the battle and it wasn't exactly an Amanda Lawrence situation where he's walking in there, he's going to win. 120, Dennis was nominated.
Oh, right.
Second.
Yeah, Dennis. Right. He wasn't nominated. But obviously his best total is, very,
from 3 or 4 years ago.
Dennis would be the favorite to win that for sure. But
hang on a second.
I mean, come on, the guy.
For sure, he's the favorite. I would say you could call him the favorite and I would be fine. But I would say sure this is the favorite
for sure. I'm not saying he's guaranteed to win. I'm saying he's the favorite. He's been there before.
He's not the favorite for sure.
He was also coming off an injury. Didn't he tear his hamstring or something?
They're also not going, so it doesn't fucking matter. How about that?
Okay, fine.
You win this round.
Jesus Oliveras is definitely the heavy favorite. But on the women's side, it looks a whole lot different too. So on the women's side, from 52, 57, 63, 69, and 76, which is, a huge chunk of them, the top nominations were non-Americans. But the Americans would have added some spice to the battle. The two top nominations for 76 were are non-American. So that battle is still going to be spicy with Angelina Lovikova and Jessica Bittner. And the two of the three top nominations for 69, Kimberly Walford and Anna Rosa Castellane, both multiple-time world champions, are still going to be there. And well, actually, you know what? Number 2 nominations, Chandler Babb, she has the exact same total as Anna Rosa Castellane. So even though Chandler Babb would have been an amazing addition, that's still a phenomenal battle with Anna Rosa versus Kimberly Walford. That's 69 kilos, 63 kilo. Carola Gara has a total that rivals those a weight class up. So does Leah Babel have a total that rivals those a weight class up. And that is an absolutely fantastic battle between those two ladies. Third was Sam Calhoun. She actually was not on the nominations before this happened, for anyone who had kept their eye on the nominations. So, it is what it is. I would have loved to see Sam in there. Sam's wonderful, but
yeah, it seems like she pulled out before this all happened. So.
She made no official announcement, but yeah, she wasn't on a nomination.
I mean, she's not on, unless it was just an oversight of the nominations or whatever. But
she was on it though. Then she came off it. So
I believe she did. I was speaking to her in the DMs the other day, and she did say that she decided not to go.
So it is what it is. But that battle is still going to be amazing. The 63 kilo battle is going to be fucking phenomenal. And what those two ladies are going to post up is going to be nuts. So, and in the 57 kilo battle, Brittany Suplicki, who I'm gutted she can't make it, was nominated 4th, but very tight. Like she's nominated 4th, but capable of shooting up to 3rd, 2nd, maybe even 1st. She's rated
1 kilo behind 2nd as a 4th nomination, right? Like that was.
Thank you, Rory. Unbelievably close. It sucks she's not in there to do the battle. However, you still got Maria T, you still got Joy Namani, and still got Bobby Butters. So it's going to be a phenomenal 57 kilo battle. Like the women's is far more competitive internationally, it would appear. 52 kilo, Naomi Alibert from France is the number 1 nomination. And the battle with Andy Riley would have been phenomenal. They're close. I believe they're only 5 kilos separated, which is close enough that, obviously Andy could swing that. We'd have to see how it plays out. We're not going to see that battle. That sucks, man. And then obviously 47s, you're talking about Heather Connerland. And we got another French lady in the 47s, a teenager, Tiffany, who Penna was talking about when he was on this podcast. And she's a teen and posting up, getting close to a 400 kilo total. And my God, if she becomes an IPF world champion, but it's going to suck not seeing Heather there. She's the queen of the 47s. It is what it is, fellas. We still got battles. We still got stars that are going to show up and show out, but it's going to be a hit, man. Nowhere else.
So I guess what I want to happen now is I want Ryan to say that Bill was right. Can we do that part?
About what?
About just I've been saying the whole time that like USA is probably not going, and you're always like, what? Why wouldn't they go? Why wouldn't they? Like literally, like I've been saying this whole time.
Bill has been saying that a long time.
Yeah,
so
I've been optimistic.
Just say, hold on, let me get the record button and say,
oh God,
buddy,
Bill is right.
Big Bill, buddy.
Big Bill. Okay, fine.
You were right. Just kidding.
Big Bill. No, I'm saying it. No, I'm saying it. No, I'm saying it. No, I'm saying it. Big Bill was right. Big Bill McCarthy, by the book Bill and Wild Bill, all of his aliases. Okay, was right.
I'm not wild anymore after
That's right. He's not wild. Now he's by the book. Now he's by the book Bill. Okay, he's by the book Bill was right. And no, man, yeah, you called it. I'm look at. I see the best in people. I'm also a stitch too optimistic at times. And this time, maybe as a stitch too. I was hoping Judgment would maybe come after IPF Worlds. Didn't work out that way. I'm still hoping IPF Worlds is going to be a phenomenal show. We definitely got some battles, and some of these battles, like I already said, the number 1 nominations, regardless if the US is there or not, wasn't going to be an American. So you could still see that individual, put on a hell of a performance. Would the American have made it a nice battle? Sure. But the number 2 nomination and 3 nomination in some cases still was an American. So we still got some battles. It ain't over. It ain't over.
I think the good thing about this too is like, you're actually going to, instead of being like, okay, Heather Connor's going to win and we don't know who the rest of the women are. Now, all of a sudden there's going to be a battle for first place in the 47 kilos. And like, you might bring some light to some new lifters that people didn't normally see that, get on the world stage now. And all of a sudden they become a household names. So, I mean, it does really help the sport out. I mean, it sucks that some of the stars aren't going to be there, but it does, it sheds a light onto newer people. But then again, there's anyone from the U.S. actually going to watch now because they're pissed off that then there's that whole thing.
If you're a powerlifting fan, I don't see how you're going to miss, like, I don't know, unless some people don't. You have
to remember though, like the USAPL, they're pissed off at the IPF.
Are the lifters pissed off at those lifters?
Yes. Yeah, so like, no, it's not about the lifters. It's about the federation, right? So like the majority of the USAPL is like super butthurt about the IPF. So therefore they're going to boycott and not watch it.
I don't
know. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So Ryan, we've talked about this before. Remember we talked about how this is not the same outside of the United States, but many people in the United States would consider themselves members of the USAPL first and are not at all members of the IPF, right? They are USAPL. They are not part of the IPF. Like, I mean, technically, but they are, but they wouldn't consider themselves that way. And so the USAPL no longer being affiliate or no longer being at the IPF meet means that they probably don't care anymore. Whereas, like, say, Canada, most people who compete in the CPU would be like, yeah, I'm an IPF lifter. Yeah, of course I'm going to watch IPF Worlds. It's the biggest IPF event of the year. Because to them, that is part of their federation, which is not the same mindset that a lot of the USAPL lifters have.
Correct. In America, if you say you're an IPF lifter, I'm assuming that you've been to a world championship.
Oh,
100%.
Like, if you're like people in other countries assume. Like in New Zealand, I would say I'm an IPF lifter, and they would say, "Oh yes, he's affiliated with the NZPF."
Right. When you said that, I was shocked. Yeah, for sure.
You know, the thing, because I'm just looking at it from perspective of the same people who are like, why punish the lifters? The lifters did nothing wrong, blah, blah, blah. How do you turn around and be like, I'm boycotting watching Angelina versus Jessica Bittner for the 76 kilo class, which is going to be phenomenal. I'm just not going to watch them, support them. If I'm a fan of powerlifting, which I am, I need to see Carola Gara versus Leah Babwa, which they're going to post up totals that could rival a weight class. I need to see that happen. It's going to be nutty.
In the USAPL, 75% of the people that compete, or 75% of the federation has no clue who any of these people are.
That's insane to me. Well, they're not true powerlifting fans then.
Well, they just don't pay attention to anything outside of the United States.
No true Scotsman fallacy here, Ryan. Like, you can be a fan of powerlifting and not know individual lifters outside of the United States, right? But like, to a lot of people, they cared about the USA lifters and they were going to tune in to watch the USA lifters. And if the USA lifters aren't there, then they don't care anymore.
You know what? Yeah, maybe that's too harsh to say they weren't, because look, when the Olympics were on, I want to watch Team Canada.
Exactly.
But I still watched when Team Canada wasn't in there, actually. I did. There's a lot of events where we weren't even in the running, literally running. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm in this. I need to see. I don't know. I don't see the mentality. I don't get the mentality. I don't need to have a fellow countryman in there for me to care, especially if it's.
I mean, but if you were a more casual fan of powerlifting than you are, right? Like, the people on this call, our lives and souls have been consumed by powerlifting, right? Like, I'm doing this call and then I'm going to go do some coaching work and I'm going to write a blog post about powerlifting, right? Like, my life is consumed by this. People who are more casual fans of powerlifting probably care more about individuals or things that they can relate to than things that happen in a far off country. Like, where even is Sweden? It's a long way from the United States. Nobody I know is there. No lifters that I look up to are there. A lot of these people either don't have social media or their social media is in a language I can't understand. Like Leah Babwa's Instagram is primarily in French, for example. And
it's
so I'm not
big though,
her.
doggy. And have you not? I mean, seen her Instagram?
I follow. Oh yeah, of course I follow her.
Yeah, you fucking do.
My life is consumed by powerlifting, Ryan. Like, I do nothing but think about powerlifting. Even in my day job, I spend my time thinking about powerlifting. But
Leah Babwa is not hurting social media wise. Don't worry about it.
But that's not true of everyone, right? Like, how many people who have never heard of Carola Gara before? Like, she is an IPF world champion. She is one of the strongest lifters in the world, raw and equipped. And like, a lot of people, particularly a lot of Americans, would still never have heard of her before.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, there are still some, like, I'm sure Jessica Bittner's got a crazy amount of social media followers. There'll still be some star power there, but you're right. Inside
greatly
the US
diminished.
Anyways.
Greatly diminished star power.
Jessica Bittner in particular?
Sorry, worlds as a whole will have greatly diminished star power.
Yeah. I was going to say.
I could never say anything about Jessica with you on the phone.
I was going to say, watch him. I'm about to eject you out of this Zoom call. But No, but yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out. I'm also gutted. You fellas may or may not be there. Rory, you're not going to be there. Bill, you're not going to be there. Arian, God knows, probably not. So, freak, man, what are we talking about? All the Americans.
I think he bought his ticket, so he might go hang out. But other than that, he ain't doing shit there anyway. So
might go hang out. Yeah, I mean, your ticket's bought. What the hell? But yeah,
he's not getting that reimbursement anymore back from the
get that reimbursement though. We'll have to think about it. I'll talk. Look at if his ticket's bought, I'll try to talk him into like, nah, stay. We'll do some King of Lifts interviews. We'll do some. You know what? That's my number one priority. As soon as we hop off this call, don't cancel that ticket, Playboy. We got some work to do. But, it is what it is, fellas. Is there anything else you think we should add on to this? If we said we're going to be quick, and my God, we're getting close to 2 hours already again.
It's because you guys talk so much. It's hard, man.
I feel like we've covered all of the main points from today.
We do have another podcast scheduled, for God's sake.
Yeah, fantasy coming up soon. So final nominations coming out. So we'll get all that sorted and get that info out to everybody.
That's it. Fellas, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you for coaching.
Oh, I don't even know if I can coach anybody anymore. I don't know what federation I'm in, so. Don't deal with me. Deal with.
Feels like I may be suspended right now. I have no idea. Don't know what my standing is. Yeah, you don't want to affiliate with me.
Don't affiliate with us Americans.
I'll affiliate with you, Bill.
That's right. Any day, buddy. Get the lift.
Affiliate and chill.
Go to Get the Lift for my man Bill. Buy the book, Bill. No longer Wild Bill.
Don't talk to me. Yeah, just don't.
And shoot him a DM. And Rory Lynch. The Lynch pin?
At Rory Lynch on Instagram or sysforstrength.com. These are the main places you can find me.
There it is, fellas. Thank you very much, man. It's been a blast, and we will reconvene after for another podcast and follow up. Peace.
Yeah, baby.